Yo, YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Salvation's Elite. We're back with another video, guys. And man, this was a wild weekend. The beginning of a new era for the CoD League already. Online Call of Duty has begun. CDL Dallas was this weekend, and we had some crazy things that went down, man. I mean, no, the Huntsmen, Dallas Empire, the Rokkr were the three favorites going into the event, and none of them came home with the title. Maybe you could say it was choking, maybe you could say it was just blowing it, maybe you could say it was incredible performances from other teams, but some big surprises went down over the weekend, and we're going through it all in this video. So I think first let's go through most of these games kind of one by one real quick and talk about what went down this weekend. So we started off with a pretty interesting matchup, Surge versus Paris over the beginning of the weekend. Of course, typical Seattle Surge, man. They just can't do it. They can't win search and destroys, man. It's crazy how many game 5s or round 11s they've lost this year. And another one came down to the wire here. They lose both S&Ds, and in game 5 they lost round 11 to Paris, which here I'll just show it to you real quick.
All 10 players alive. Karma with the first blood.
That's huge. However, Zed responds with a pick on towards Appy. Time ticking, 33 seconds left on the clock. Luka pre-firing, knows the push is going to come through. Slap bunny hops his way, but Kismet is there for the trade. Now, 3 versus 2. Octane and Panda alive for Seattle Surge, and Panda's being hunted down all by himself. Zed shuts him down, and that is everyone from Seattle Surge falling. Paris Legion will grab the defuse, will win the round 11, and will win the series.
It's rough, man. It's rough. Surge cannot figure it out in Search and Destroy. Obviously, they brought in Pander for Enable a few weeks ago, and that obviously has not been what they hoped would be the answer to their Search and Destroy woes. There's more going on than just that, and you just think with this roster, they'd be able to figure it out, but they cannot figure it out, man. Moving on, Florida. I mean, no spoilers, but Florida ended up having a pretty good weekend for themselves. This started off real rough, though. They're playing Toronto, the Toronto Ultra, who we all thought were debatably the worst team in the league at this point. And I mean, you know, there's still an argument for them to be the worst team in the league, but they really did blow it against the Ultra. Toronto win both S&Ds, and the Mutineers were 6-0'd in map 2 on Gunrunner. And I mean, you could not have started off worse if you were the Mutineers this weekend, losing to the Ultra in round 1. And the Ultra moved on to play the Empire. And then we had one of the most interesting matchups of the whole weekend, Huntsmen versus Rokkr. Man, every map was so close, insanely close. But at the end of the day, it was a 3-0 from the Huntsmen. Of course, the highlight of the series, what everybody's going to remember, is the search and destroy on St. Petro. The Rokkr were looking incredible. They were up 5-0. The Huntsmen bring it all the way back to round 11, and then this happens.
An interview, and he was asked about his top 5 players. I don't think he had anyone on Chicago in his top 5. Envoy trying to make him rethink that decision.
I mean, he's fantastic talent, that's for sure. Minnesota Rokkr on the attack here in the round 11. Can they turn things around? Well, no, there's a first blood for Gunless, and I think the Huntsmen are trying to just soar forward. Silly will stop Scump's progression past the A site. Arcitys is hanging back, playing slow. 4 versus 4. Gunless, who fell in this exact position a few rounds prior, will take a few shots and wisely back away. Doesn't want to get naded. Doesn't want to give away his life. Nothing. 50 seconds to go. Still 4v4, and everyone from Minnesota Rokkr is in the A site. Alex will find one. Arcitys goes down. Is this now the potential opening Minnesota Rokkr need to close out this game?
Outside control, and the bomb is going to get planted. Now the deal is on the Huntsmen to try to get this retake. Gunless pushing up top with the M4, wins the opening fight.
Not quite sure how, I'm going to be honest, Chance, but Gunless levels the playing field. 3v3. I can't believe it. Envoy, you've been a hero throughout the entire game. He's on the bomb. The defuse. Minnesota Rokkr, you gotta check it. Full sale happens again from 5-0 down. Chicago Huntsmen win 6 in a row. You don't see it very often, but welcome back to the Call of Duty League. What a day of games we are having so far. I cannot believe we just witnessed that.
Envoy was an absolute monster throughout the whole series, especially on Search and Destroy. People are wholeheartedly on the Envoy bandwagon now if they weren't already. I mean, he was a top 5 player last year in Black Ops 4 for Gen G, but because he was on Gen G, a lot of people didn't know who he was or how good he actually was. And now this year, being showcased on the most popular team in the league, he's getting the love he deserves, and he's been fantastic. But either way, it was a close one for the Rokkr, and like it was so gut-wrenching if you're a Minnesota fan there. Like, they should have had it, and it ended up being a big deal moving forward. The Empire then played Los Angeles Guerrillas, which the Guerrillas, of course, sporting their new roster, which they played with at CDL LA, but the issue was they were only playing on like 5 days practice there, so we were interested to see what they could do at this tournament. They took Empire to the wire here, man. I mean, they won the Search and Destroy on Arklov, and then in the hard point, man, on Hackney. It was so close. They played a fantastic hard point. They were up almost the whole match, but right at the end, the Empire hold the office hill, but then the push towards P5, the hold, Illy makes a play. Why am I talking about it? I'll just show you.
Now, this is it. The final push coming in right now.
This looks like what Rokkr had to do to Empire, right? Like this final.
Oh, they got in. Illy got in. Illy got in. Can he hit the door? Illy got in. He finds all three. He finds all three, and they flip this ball.
You gotta be kidding me. You've gotta be kidding me. And they can win it here. They can win it here. So now Guerrillas have to track the whole way across the map. Oh God, not like this. Not like this. This is bringing me back to Empire Rokkr to close out LA. Now all the pressure on Guerrillas to try and get in, get some kind of contest. So far, they're holding it. It's a big win that comes in from Huke. He's actually able to get 2. They're spawning out again. There has to be some kind of contest.
That's it. There's only one.
He's got to contest. He's not able to do it.
How did Illy get in?
That's likely going to be the game. That's going to be the game. They can't get there. They can't get there. That's an Empire Series win. Some home series magic for Dallas.
Crazy. Like, bro. Oh, it hurts. I can't imagine how bad that had to hurt for LAG fans. I was kind of, if you guys watch the podcast, I was kind of on the bandwagon that they might be able to make something happen this weekend, but they came just short against the Empire. Then the Huntsmen played Paris, and Paris kept it close, man. It was a very tightly contested series all the way through, but at the end of the day, the Huntsmen won 3-1. Paris won the Gunrunner hardpoint, but obviously at the end of the day, Huntsman's talent and team ability played out and was the difference. Then Empire played Toronto, all right? And Toronto took the Empire to game 5. So, I mean, Toronto beat the Mutineers, who ended up, spoiler, winning the tournament. And then they took Empire to game 5. I don't know, man. Toronto showing improvement with the new roster. They benched Looney for medals, and it seems to be making a difference. Toronto took Hackney Dom and Gunrunner hardpoint, but they lost both S&Ds on Gunrunner and Piccadilly, which of course was game 5, and they ended up losing the series, unfortunately. And that win sent Empire through to the single bracket elimination. The next match was the Surge versus Rokkr, and man, I mean, domination madness. Domination madness. This was Gunrunner domination. It came down to the literal wire, and I mean, let me just show you.
They have to push towards C. Going all the way around, I believe, is going to be Alex. He's the one that might be able to make the play. In through bathroom on the pinch is going to be God RX.
Apathy, though, on A. Apathy's trying to work
I think Assault's there to pick it up. I think Assault's there to pick it up.
He's got to get the kill, though. Assault's able to get the kill. Can they get the takes in? Oh, my. It's the 3-cap. The 3-cap's in. But there's the neutral. I think...
I have no idea what's going to happen, Joe.
I think they lose this. What is happening?
Where's the tick? What's the tick?
It's a tie.
It's a draw. It's a draw.
Yes, the 2 neutrals came in.
Did both of those neutrals happen right before that final tick happened?
Right at the tick, the neutrals came in. Wow.
Yep, you heard that right. They tied. They drew. They had to replay. I mean, somehow the Rokkr were able to flip there. They made the plays to make that comeback. I mean, the Surge were gutted, but they regained quick. They beat them again on Gunrunner hardpoint. They took them to a game 5 because of a crazy hardpoint at the end there. Again, let's just watch it.
I think it's 1 second again.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. God, what is it with us? They pass these crazy Hackney Yards, Joe?
I think it is a 1 second game again.
Oh my God.
I think Minnesota just has to play rotation. Are they going to notice it? Are they going to notice it? That is the question. Or are they going to freak out the way Seattle did?
Oh, now look, one spawns out. Yeah, Karma spawns out. Slack spawns out. Oh no.
They got to hold on, though. They have to hold on, right? They have to hold on for 5 seconds.
Go. If you're go, now you go. If you're Rokkr trying to get in, get the one.
This is great for Seattle.
No. I thought they could get enough time because they weren't able to do it.
It's 1 tick again.
And now Seattle's inside. 249. Seattle won.
What are these guys?
What is going on with these maps?
It just kept flip-flopping.
Oh
Every team
my
thought the other team was going to win.
God.
They didn't have to do
unreal. All right, that's just crazy. Like, what is that? You know, just insane stuff. Of course, though, it's the Seattle Surge, which means they lost both S&Ds and lost the series in map 5. Bro, it's crazy, man. They gotta figure something out, dude. If they could win half their search and destroys, they could be like top 5 right now. But the problem is they're so bad in S&D. They're never going to get anywhere if they're playing this bad in search and destroy. They'll lose every game 5. It's not going to matter. So, man, they need to do whatever it takes at this point to figure out what's wrong. We're going to talk more about this potentially in tomorrow's video and for sure on the podcast coming out on Wednesday. So make sure to be on the lookout for that because we're going to be talking in depth about what is wrong with the Surge's search and destroy. So next up is Florida versus LAG, Los Angeles Guerrillas. And again, an interesting series. I thought the Guerrillas might be able to make something happen because Florida lost to Toronto. I was like, all right, well, maybe the Guerrillas can make something happen here. Unfortunately, for my bandwagon hopes, Florida won the series. LAG took the S&D on Gunrunner, but Florida looked really, really good in respawn. And this is where I first thought like, oh, I mean, Florida looked really, really good in those matches and ended up showing later on in the tournament. The next match was Rokkr versus Paris. And, you know, the Rokkr absolutely dominated the response. They lost around 11 on Gunrunner to Paris, but it wouldn't matter because the Rokkr looked so much better in the respawns. And after how I saw how good the Rokkr were playing in this series, it felt inevitable that they would be having at least a good amount of success against the Empire, which is, of course, a foreshadowing to what we're going to talk about in a second. So then we had the most irrelevant match in a long time where everyone kind of thought this was the most throwaway match ever. Toronto versus Florida, because the winner of this would have to go play the Huntsmen the next day. It felt inevitable that the Huntsmen were going to take down whoever won this one. But Florida, you know, they won around 11 on Ramaza in map 2, and Toronto do take the Dom on Gunrunner, but it's not enough. 3-1 Mutineers, sending them to play the Huntsmen the next day. So we're now in the final 4, the semifinals, and the Huntsmen played Florida. This was shocking, all right? So the Huntsmen took map 1 pretty handily on Gunrunner, 250-199. A lot of people thought this was going to be a 3-0 right after that. I mean, it was a pretty dominant performance overall on the map. And Florida brought it back, nothing to the extent to make us believe that they would end up winning the next 3 maps. But guess what? They did. Piccadilly was an interesting series for sure. 6-4. It was tied in there. And then the decisive round, Florida found their way through on Piccadilly.
Envoy looking down those sights, trying to find someone on the cross. It looks like it's going to be a B push for the Mutineers. Make that 8, make that a 3rd for Skyz. Florida somehow don't win the search. Modeling. Chicago, of course, won the he missed a great one. Envoy taken out by the team shot. Skyz is going to find another, and surely this is a clean sweep here. The Mutineers shutting things down. Skyz headshot after headshot, haircut after haircut.
It's really surprising. I mean, we knew Florida could be a pretty good respawn team if Skyz and Fero could do the slaying that they needed them to do. But Mox, Havoc, and Frosty really improved from their previous performances, whether you attribute that to online or whether they just found their groove with Fero now, which I think it's more that than anything else. They looked awesome, and they came out frying. They absolutely smoked the Huntsmen on Hackney Dom, which was really surprising because Formal ran an MP5 on Hackney Dom, which means they were running 4 MP5s. Now, generally on Hackney, most teams are running 2 M4s, and the Huntsmen decided to play a more aggressive, faster-paced game, and Formal got absolutely smoked. I'm going to talk more about Formal, you know, later, but man, this was one of the roughest performances I've seen from Formal in a long time. And then it came down to Azhir Cave, Hardpoint, and the Mutineers, man. They looked so good in this match. And then I started worrying, and I was like, oh, wow, they look really good. Not only are they just beating a really good team, but they just look like they were playing textbook Hardpoint, winning the gunfights they needed to win, pushing out of hills, getting map control, and they looked really, really good. And this was when I started thinking, like, okay, they legitimately could beat whoever they end up playing in the grand finals. Then Rokkr versus Empire, a rematch of CDL LA's final, and man, the Rokkr looked so good. Again, Empire is really good in Search and Destroy. We knew that going into this tournament. We knew they were going to be good. They won 6-1 on Piccadilly in map 2. But Rokkr took a pretty close Ramasa hardpoint, 250 to 222. And then Gunrunner, Hackney. Gunrunner was close. The Dom was close. Hackney, though, Rokkr seemed to have control almost the whole way through. They played it so well. And even though Empire has been scrappy on Hackney, there were so many engagements in that match, but Rokkr looked really good. I expected the Rokkr to go into that final and take care of business versus the Mutineers, but man, Fero, Skyz, they had something else to say about that. They came out absolutely frying. So the Rokkr take map 1, and I'm like, all right, this is it. It was a really close match on Cave, but at the end of the day, the Rokkr's AR's GodRx is insane at this game. He's so good at this game, and it showed in that match. I thought at that point, okay, I think the Rokkr are gonna take this probably 3-1, maybe lose the Dom, maybe lose the S&D, but I felt pretty confident about a 3-1. Was I wrong? Was I wrong? The Mutineers just morphed into a dominant team right after that. They took the Piccadilly search and destroy 6-2. I was surprised that the Rokkr were willing or allowed this to happen, considering the Mutineers played the Huntsmen on it, considering the Mutineers just saw them play it against the Empire, and it showed again, man. The Mutineers won 6-2 on Piccadilly, and then in the domination, I mean, it wasn't even close. Just pure dominance. 194, 117, no pun intended. They destroyed them. Then into the hard point. Again, man, the Mutineers absolutely smoked them. I mean, I didn't see it coming. I'll be honest. This was shocking. Fero played out of his mind. Insane. He had a 1.24 overall. I mean, Skyz, of course, had a 1.3, which is unreal. But again, you expect that a little bit more considering he's playing the AR. You have to have a dominant SMG in most cases like this, and Fero was the guy to absolutely go off. Again, man, it's ironic. It's a comeback story, kind of, because, you know, he was dropped from 100T last year. Unfortunately, because of supposedly things he said, and, you know, teams were scared to pick him up, and starting rosters just didn't end up selecting him. And then finally, a team gives him the opportunity, and he has taken it by storm. He's looked incredible. OpTic Gaming's got to be a little pissed, considering, you know, imagine if they had Fero instead of JCap right now. They'd be feeling pretty good about themselves. That is irrelevant at this point. Fero is awesome. Skyz, insane. He's living up to the potential that people thought he would have last year when he joined LG, and he's been incredible. Obviously, this whole season, Skyz has been an absolute monster, a performer, but it really showed this time around, especially in those final 3 matches of their tournament. Looked insane. So GG's to Mutineers. I think this is a squad that can keep this up. Priestahh's got to be punching air right now, just throwing fists. So pissed because I don't think he's getting his starting spot back anytime soon. I mean, Mox and Havoc are their buddies. Fero is now irreplaceable. Skyz is irreplaceable. So the only one, you know, would be Frosty. But Frosty finally had an event where he looked really solid almost all weekend long. And at this point, Priestahh's probably stuck for a while on the bench unless he's traded. But for the Huntsmen, this is really disappointing. I mean, they should have beat the Mutineers. They should have beat the Mutineers. They smoked the Rokkr round 1. I mean, to take the Rokkr 3-0 in round 1, you've got to be feeling good after that. Then they struggled. They showed signs of weakness a little bit at points. They showed that they were beatable. The Mutineers get beat by Toronto, come through, beat them. It shouldn't happen. Obviously, talent-wise, Envoy at this point is a top 5 player in the game. And then you've got the supporting cast. They're just some small decisions made all the difference. I'm going to keep going back to that Dom. I don't know why Formal decided to keep the MP5 out when they're running a 1 AR on Hackney versus the Mutineers. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And he was getting smoked on the MP5. Why not pull out the M4 at some point? But hey, you know, mistakes were made. I am a little bit worried that this could create some type of like mental checkout for the Huntsmen for online COD. We've seen it in the past. We've seen guys like Gunless and Scump and Formal get frustrated, and then they kind of just check out and decide it's not worth grinding for an online COD like this anymore. And then you know, you go from there. In my opinion, that is just the worst mentality. I mean, there's no other option for the league at this point. You've got to play online. There's no point in complaining about it at this point. this is going to be the COD from here on out. And the dedicated servers, you know, they were spotty at times this weekend, but at the end of the day, everyone is dealing with it. All the players are playing online. All the players are playing from, you know, home or from their setups. They actually had a better setup and a better situation than many of the teams out there, like Empire, Huntsmen. Any team is complaining about the online. I saw Octane complaining about online, which we'll talk about, you know, more in the podcast on Wednesday. The online is COD from here on out, so good COD is going to still shine. We saw the Rokkr still play great COD from land to here. The Mutineers, people are going to blame the Mutineers or put an asterisk next to the Mutineers win because it was online. That's the only reason why they were good. In my opinion, if this was LAN, they still would have been really good. Fero finally found his form and everything else. So that's my TED Talk. Welcome to my TED Talk. There's a lot more we can talk about. I'll save it for tomorrow's video and for the podcast when it comes to like individual performances, diving into some of the stats. I have the stat sheets in front of me right now, already writing stuff for tomorrow's video. And of course, we'll be talking about the podcast on Wednesday. And then I'll be doing a Learn from the Pros on Thursday and probably Friday, maybe back to back Learn from the Pros. Exciting, I know. But as always, guys, remember what's up, if you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, favorite, subscribe, and we will see you next time. I'm out.